In my last 15 years in SaaS, I've made a ton of mistakes, whether it was as a first-time founder or it was as SVP of strategy of a large SaaS company that acquired my company, or it was as a product manager, as a first-time product manager in tech in Silicon Valley when my first company got acquired. Through all of these different roles, I've learned a ton, I've made a ton of mistakes, I've learned principles from those mistakes, and I've also had a lot of things that have gone really well. Based on all of that, one of the things I've seen over and over again are these 10 mistakes that I personally made, that Baby TK made, that founders still make today. In a way, this is one of the reasons why I started Unstoppable. I started this channel, I started my coaching practice. They say that coaching, in a way, is to heal past wounds for yourself. One of the biggest things I've learned in my journey is so often we as founders, when we're facing tough decisions, when we've made mistakes or we're about to make mistakes, at the end of the day, you can have a board, you can have investors, you can have employees, but at the end of the day, it's a founder sitting in a room alone, staring at a spreadsheet, trying to make a tough decision. And I think because of that, because I was in those moments and I couldn't call someone that was on the cap table, I couldn't call someone that was on the payroll, I couldn't call someone that was competitive or really didn't have my best interest. I just wish there was someone I could call that was unbiased, that had some sort of a framework to think through things. And that's how this whole Unstoppable thing was born. That's why I started this channel. And that's why I do coaching. That's why I'm on speed dial for the 250 plus SaaS founders that I work with inside of my coaching programs. So in this episode, what I wanted to do was share the top 10 mistakes that I see over and over first-time founders make, that I've made, that I've learned from. I'm gonna show you the mistakes that I've made. I'm gonna show you the principles that I learned from it. And that way, you'll be able to avoid these mistakes. You'll be able to reduce your execution risk. And that way, you'll make new mistakes. And that's okay. You'll learn and you'll go faster. But hopefully down the line, you'll also pay it forward and share the mistakes you learned in the future and share it with the next generation of founders. And when you follow this video all the way to the end and you learn these principles, you will be able to reduce execution risk and you'll be able to accelerate your path to that next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS business faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches, from having been a founder and still am a founder, on how to grow SaaS businesses. So if you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon, that way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of my SaaS go-to-market coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. The startup journey has its highest of highs and its lowest of lows. And that's okay, because what we know is very small percentage of the population actually even tries to build companies, and even smaller percent of that population succeeds. But when we do, the rewards are immense. If someone were to sit down Baby TK from 10, 15 years ago, and they were to give them a list of, here's your startup journey, here's everything that's gonna go wrong, here's all the mistakes you're gonna make, here's all the brutal moments that you're gonna have, here's the lowest of lows that you're gonna accomplish, here's the lowest of lows that you're going to experience, but here's the highest of highs you can experience and the highest of highs that you can accomplish. If someone were to give me that list, I would stare at that list. I would probably cry a little bit, and then I would say, let's do it anyway. And that's what we all do. We're like, let's go. I know this is gonna be hard, but there's always a way forward, so let's go do it. And the reason we're willing to do it is because when we do find that way forward, the rewards are immense. Not just in terms of monetary reasons, but because of the impact we have with our companies and our products and the people's lives we change, but also how we come out of that growth experience, jacked, ripped, and actually fit more than ever to actually take on our next challenge. That's why we do this. And so in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the top 10 mistakes I've made that I see first-time founders and even second-time founders continue to make, and the principles you can apply to avoid them so you can reduce your execution risk and accelerate your path to that next stage of growth. So if you're excited to dig into principle number one, mistake number one, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's dig right into it. So mistake number one that I see first-time founders make and Baby TK has made is wasting months building the wrong product. So wasting months building the wrong product is one of the things I've made a mistake on in my prior product ideas, and I see other founders make a mistake on as well. This is when they get so obsessed with the product and how perfect it needs to be, they don't actually get that first version out there. More importantly, what they don't think about what the market is that they're going after. Thinking in terms of market first, what's the market I'm going after? What's the urgent important problem? Who are my ideal customers? Are they actually gonna buy this? And testing that as early as possible is one of the biggest mistakes I see first-time founders make even today, and that I made and I learned the hard way. The biggest thing that you wanna actually do is think in terms of what's the market, what's the product, and what's the go-to-market, and attack all three of these as early as possible so that you can actually de-risk the fact that you might be building the wrong product. The second mistake that I made as a founder that I see founders still make today is they build a product that's for everybody. And this is one of the things that I know we all struggle with, because on one hand, you have TAM, that's total addressable market. We want to go after a very large market. On the other hand, we have ICP, your initial customer profile. This is the initial group of people that's really going to use your product. And one of the things I see founders struggle with is they optimize for TAM, which is your total addressable market. They try to go after a really large market and say, this is for everybody. Think of how many people that are gonna use this, instead of thinking about your ICP. Second biggest mistake that I see founders make today is they don't get hyper-focused on who is the ideal customer. What is their urgent important problem? Would they buy this product? How do we talk to them as early as possible? How do we build pipeline with them? How do we get them on our mailing list? How do we educate them? How do we get on conversations as we build the product so that we can sell it to them as the product becomes ready? And oftentimes, the ideal customer profile is very small. That's your initial customer profile. And then over time, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The best example I like to give for this is you think about Amazon. They started by selling books online when no one bought anything online, let alone books. Now they sell everything everywhere. Their initial customer profile was people that were online, that were willing to buy books, maybe rare books, and they got their traction that way, knowing their vision was to sell everything to everyone. They wanted to be the everything store, but they started with that ideal customer profile. The third mistake that I see first-time founders make, second-time founders make, that Baby TK made, and even sometimes I make today, is not having a one-sentence value prop. So the value prop for my last company, ToutApp, was we help you generate more pipeline using outbound emails. That's the simple value prop. If you can't distill it down to a one simple value prop, if you need like, well, do you have 5 seconds? I'm gonna really explain it to you, and it takes a whole lot of time. If you don't have it down to a one sentence value prop on what you guys do, what problem you solve, and who it's for, and why it's differentiated, forget the fact that you won't be successful in getting revenues or customers or growing. It just shows that you haven't really thought about your go-to-market yet. You've just been building product. At the bare minimum, you need to have a one-sentence value prop that you know resonates with your market, that you can actually tell people and they're like, oh my God, I want to learn more. If you don't have that, stop writing code. You actually need to figure out if the value prop is right and if the market actually cares about it. And so often, folks go about building product, not doing go-to-market, and trying to raise money without actually building out their one-sentence value prop, which is super, super important. And that simple exercise of actually saying, okay, cool, what is our ideal customer profile? What is our one-sentence value prop? These are things that when you start to actually talk about, it yields a better product, believe it or not, because great products are actually built on deep understanding of the target market you're going after. So the more refined your value prop is, the more refined your ideal customer is, the more refined your market is, the more refined your understanding of it is, and the better the product you're gonna build. A lot of times people forget that. The fourth mistake that I made as a founder was not building pipeline, a mailing list, or an audience. This kind of connects with some of these other pieces because I didn't think about the market, I didn't think about go-to-market, because I didn't think about the ICP, because I didn't think about the value prop, I actually didn't build out a list of people that I knew would buy my product, or I was priming to buy my product. So one of the things that we teach inside of my go-to-market program is, regardless of whether you're pre-revenue or a little bit of revenue, or you have some massive product release coming together, start doing the go-to-market work early. The reason for that is when you start coding, you get immediate results, right? right? The product starts to get built. You can see the feature on your screen. Go-to-market work, pipeline building work, mailing list building, audience building, whatever you want to call it, community building, is delayed gratification, meaning you do a bunch of work, takes a bunch of time to compound, and then you see the results of it. And so when you start to think about, well, I'm going to build a product, then I'm going to turn on go-to-market, that's completely flawed because you might be building the wrong product, but also go-to-market doesn't happen overnight. It's not like 50 million people are going to knock on your door the next day and say, hey, I really want to use your product and your servers are melting. It never works that way, unless you're giving away free money or free AI or something like that, which are exception cases. Building a go-to-market and starting to build the audience, build a pipeline, starting as early as possible, helps you hone in on your one-sentence value prop, helps you hone in on your ICP, helps you get a better understanding of the market you're going after, and therefore helps you build a better product. But if you keep building the product in a vacuum, and then you say, cool, I'm gonna hire marketing or hire sales, and they're just gonna turn it on, never works that way. Because once you start work on go-to-market, it takes weeks, if not months, for that compounding work to actually show results. So it's delayed gratification, and so you gotta start as early as possible. And so what you wanna do is actually make sure that you're building pipeline early to actually build out on your ICP, your go-to-market, and your market understanding, and also your value prop. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned in my journey. The number 5 mistake that I made was I didn't have a written out go-to-market strategy. So for some reason, I was very diligent about having a product roadmap, feature ideas, wireframes. I was good about that, but I didn't have a written out like, hey, what is our go-to-market strategy? What is our market? What is our ICP? What is our one-sentence value prop? I didn't write it down. I had it in my head. And I see this even more today. We'll meet founders that are like, oh, we have an ICP. Oh, we have a value prop. And we're like, okay, cool, what is it? Let's see it. And they don't quite have it. They have this vague notion of it because they've oversimplified it in their heads instead of doing the hard work. It's almost like saying, oh yeah, the product's almost ready. And you haven't written a single line of code. You just have it in your head, or you have a wireframe, and that doesn't count. And so one of the things that I learned in my journey is you gotta write it out. You have to have a written out go-to-market strategy. And typically with the go-to-market strategy, you wanna have a clear ICP, you wanna have a manifesto, which is your strategic messaging, and you wanna have a Broadway show, which articulates what your consistent set of sales and marketing activities are gonna be. If you don't have these 3 written out, even in a 1-page document that outlines, okay, cool, here's how we're thinking about it, chances are you're doomed for failure because you're not really thinking through how you're gonna market your product, and you might be building the wrong product, which goes back to mistake number 1 as well. Okay, so those are the 5 big mistakes that I've learned, and the green is the things that I've done to actually avoid those mistakes again. This is one of the things you'll see our core themes in this channel, and for good reason, because these are the most common mistakes that first-time founders and even second-time founders make, because sometimes second-time founders get cocky. Oh, we don't need any of that, and then they fail. These are the 5 most important things. Now, I've 5 more for you. They're just as impactful, and they get a little bit more into what happens after you've gotten revenues and you're scaling. These are mistakes that I made even as ToutApp was growing. We raised our Series B, and I learned the hard way. But before I go into that, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? If you're starting to see the power in some of these mistakes, and so many of us are guilty of these, right? Like this is not, I'm not like speaking as like, oh my God, you're so dumb for making them. I made these mistakes. These are common mistakes, but they're easily avoidable. If you start to see the power in this, if you start to embrace some of these principles instead of making these common mistakes, how you'll be able to accelerate your growth and actually reduce execution risk. If you're starting to see the power in this, can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that. And also, if you are at this stage where you are driving to revenues and you're looking to scale and you're like, look, we have the product, maybe it's not 100% there, but we really need to drive revenues, we need a go-to-market strategy, then I encourage you to check out my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. I'll link to it below. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this video. You don't have to go anywhere right now. Smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. You realize it when you do that. And let's go to number 6. I'll tell you about the program in the end. So mistake number 6 is not hiring stage appropriate people. This one is a nuanced learning. And there's really 2 mistakes here. One is you don't hire people at the right time. And I've talked about this in prior videos. I'll link to it below. In the founder-led go-to-market journey, first you do it yourself, then you get leverage. You hire an SDR, an AE, or demand gen marketer, or all 3, and then you hire leaders. And if you do the founder-led thing for too long, then you'll fail. But if you don't do any of it and you try to outsource it too early, then you'll fail. So you got to get the right balance. You also want to make sure that, okay, once things are working, here's the people I'm going to hire to start taking over pieces, and then I'm going to hire a leader that can take over the whole organization. We call that scaffolding. So there's a sequence to this. First of all, if you outsource your go-to-market to a fractional CMO, first of all, most fractional CMOs are horrible. If they were really good at their job or even decently good, they'd just be working somewhere because there's so much in demand. So most of them suck. But if you outsource it, chances are you're gonna fail. If you embrace it, but you hold on to it for too long, you'll fail. And so you wanna make sure that you are actually embracing go-to-market. You also wanna make sure that at the right moments, you're getting leverage, meaning you're hiring individual contributors that can give you leverage in the machine that's starting to work. And then at the right time, you're hiring the right VP to take over that machine and scale that machine. If you hire the really high-level VP too early, then they won't know what to do. They won't be able to actually make it work, so you'll fail. That's where this stage appropriate comes in, but you also wanna make sure you get leverage. So that's where actually hiring comes in. So what you wanna do is, you wanna think about, how do I hire the right people for the appropriate stage that we are in? If you want to learn more about the founder-led go-to-market journey, how it's not forever, but you have to embrace it in the beginning, and then hire leverage, and then hire leaders, and how that looks like, and how to strike that balance, you can check out this video. I'll link to it below as well. You don't have to go anywhere right now. So that's number 6, mistake number 6, where there were cases where I tried to outsource it too early, and I learned the hard way, they're not very good. I also learned the hard way that, oh, if I hire the monster VP and we don't have the actual functionality built yet in terms of the go-to-market machine, they won't work. So I had to learn, like, okay, I gotta hire the scaffolding, the doers, and then put in the leader on top, and then it works really well. So that's something I learned. Number 7, as I was hiring, as we were growing, at one point, Taudat was like 90 people. One of the biggest mistakes I made was not firing low performers. What I saw, what I learned in my own journey, and I see even today, is companies have a pretty good defined process for hiring, okay? They're thoughtful about hiring. They have a hiring process, there's a rubric, you interview people, and then you like kind of debrief on it. Everyone kind of knows this, and for the most part, it works pretty well. Where we go wrong is we don't fire fast enough. When we get someone in, we're like, okay, cool, we did our job, they're gonna be amazing. We assume they're gonna be fine, instead of actually thinking about like, hey, should we fire this person? Are they doing their job? Are they hitting their metrics? Are we having one-on-ones? Has it been 3 months? Have we done a full review? Have we reflected on if they're the right hire or not? And actually firing the people that are bad. What I learned the hard way is sometimes it's better to just fire someone that's not good in the role and have an empty seat instead of having a terrible person in that seat that wreaks havoc across the organization. And more importantly, it's really important to having a firing process, just like how you have a hiring process. And so what I learned is you have to have a firing process and an evaluation process. And sometimes early stage startups are hiring so fast, they forget that. And if you don't have a process, just like you have a hiring process, have a firing process to really evaluate your employees, you'll end up with a lot of people that are not performing, and then it brings down the output of the entire organization, and your good people start to leave, and a bunch of things goes wrong, which I learned the hard way. And so you wanna make sure you're actually firing your low performers and you're evaluating your people in a proper way, just like how you evaluate them when you're hiring them. Almost in a way to say, hey, we thought this person would be able to do this. Are they doing it? Yes or no? Should we keep them? Should we fire them? And just be ruthless about it. Mistake number 8 that I made is not having a KPI per person. I remember at one point when we were like 90 people, and I've had this multiple times when I've had large organizations, I would walk around and I'd be like, I don't know what that person does all day. Like, I know I was working hard, I knew who the top performers are, but there were a group of people, I'm like, I really don't know what they're doing. Like, I have no idea. And it would be a gut feeling, and I would go talk to the manager on that, like, hey, like, how's this person? I'm like, oh, no, they're fine. And part of that was because we didn't have a proper evaluation and firing process. Part of that was also because, for me, as CEO, I didn't have a KPI, a key performance indicator, on a person by person or department by department basis. And it can be very easy to overcomplicate this, and it can be very easy to do nothing about this. The right balance I found was like, look, for every department, there's one unit metric that really determines if they're being successful or not. And that is either green or red. If it's green, then great. If it's red, that means you should double click and learn more and have the tougher conversations to see what's working and what's not. An example of that is that for customer success, we should just look look at DRR. What is our dollar retention rate? If we are renewing people and some of our customers are buying more, and so a net we're making more money from our customer base, then customer success is doing their job. If they're not, then let's double click on what the DRR is on a customer success rep basis and see what's red and what's green, and double click on that and see if they're a good rep or there's something more deeper wrong with the product. Similarly, if you look at engineering, you can either say, how many features did we release? And is the adoption high for those features? Or are our win rates going up? Or is our retention rate going up? Code that we ship should either increase conversion rates or increase retention rates, right? Like otherwise, why do anything with product? And so that's a good place to start as in KPI to say, hey, you might be doing a lot of stuff, but is it actually having a meaningful impact to the business? That's one of the key things to understand. And if you can start to think about what is the KPI per person or even per department, it can help you understand, okay, is it red or is it green? Do I need to go investigate more, have a conversation? Do we need to have a firing evaluation process, or is everything fine? Instead of just going up by that gut, I'm like, I think that person sucks, which every manager has at some point, right? Like you have an underperformer and you look at it, you're like, I can't prove it, but it feels like you're a terrible employee and you don't quite know how. But then if you have a raw number associated with that department exists to impact a business number. What is that number? Are they hitting that number or not? It can at least open up the discussion. This is something I learned the hard way through my time in managing. And now I feel like I find a healthier balance for it because it allows me to either say, do I need to double click and learn more? Or do I need to say like, this is fine, let's look at other fires. And there's always other fires to look at. Okay, number 9 mistake is not having a renewals process, specifically from day 1 of the customer. Okay, so what this means is, with SaaS, software as a service, it's a recurring revenue business. If the customer does not renew, you do not have a business, period. You literally can't get enough customers fast enough to fix that. So you will have a broken business. What companies often do wrong is they don't think about customer success early enough. They think about the renewal when it's like 3 months away. So what I learned the hard way is you wanna have a renewals process from day 1, okay? What that means is as soon as the customer becomes a customer, that's day 1 for that customer. You wanna say, cool, we have 12 months with this customer. What happens on day 1? Day 30, day 90, month 3, month 4, month 6, you just keep going. And you wanna map out that full process. That way, by the time the renewal comes together, it's kind of a foregone conclusion, like, okay, this is clearly something that we're gonna renew and everything's going well, versus some sort of surprise on, are you happy? Like, are you gonna renew? Or like, and then they're like, we're not gonna renew, who are you? And so what I learned the hard way is it's almost like, oh, we have 12 months, we'll renew them when the time is right, and you go up for a renewal 12 months, like a month before. That's totally wrong. You need to map out your customer journey once they become a customer from day 1 all the way to month 12, and map out all the touch points that are gonna happen to make sure that they're successful and happy. You need to do QBRs, quarterly business reviews with your customers. If you wanna learn how to do a QBR, you can check out this video. I went into detail on how to do that, and inside of my go-to-market program, we really teach you how to set up a process like this. You don't have to go right now, I'll link to it below, don't worry. But that's one of the big things that I learned, and it makes a drastic difference in your growth of the business because now the revenue starts to compound because your renewals are gonna be super healthy. All right, number 10, not having a consistent management cadence to revamp go-to-market growth strategy. This is also one of the mistakes that I made and I learned the hard way, especially as we were scaling, and I saw this even at Marketo, which was like 450 million ARR. Not having a proper management cadence where you're saying like, cool, what worked, what didn't work, how do we revamp? Because here's the thing, if things are going well, which likely are, and also just given the nature of the world, every quarter the conditions are different, whether internal to the company or in the market dynamics in the market you're in or in the world. Things are constantly changing. And if you're doing things right, every quarter you're gonna have a completely different company because of the rate of growth. And so if you don't have a consistent management cadence, what that means is like every 3 months or every month, we look at the same dashboard, we get the leadership team together, our co-founders together, we look at the metrics and we figure out what is our go-to-market strategy, what's working, what's not, how do we tweak given everything that's happening. If you're not doing that, then you'll fall behind, even if you have a quarter that's worked well. If you've ever had a month where everything went well and then it kind of fell apart, that's probably why, because the conditions changed, but you didn't adapt with it. And what I learned is you need to have a consistent management cadence. And what that means is that you want every quarter, at the bare minimum, you want to look at the same set of metrics, have an offsite, talk through what's working and what's not, and iterate from there. This is something that every CEO that I work with, I give them a framework on what to follow and how to do that with the right tooling and the metrics, because that's super important. Okay, this video has gone on forever, but I wanted to do this. These are the top 10 mistakes that I made as a first-time founder, and I learned the hard way, and how I see this happening over and over. And I want you to avoid these mistakes so you can reduce your execution risk, so you can accelerate your growth. Number one, you don't want to actually waste time building the wrong product. You really want to get market first. What's the market we're going after? How do we get into that market? And then how do we build a product based on our deep understanding on that market? Number two, don't build this for everybody. Get your initial customer profile defined. Number three, not having a one-sentence value proposition is a huge mistake I see founders make. Build out your one-sentence value prop. If you can't do it in one sentence, then you don't have a deep enough understanding of your market or your ICP, and that's a telling sign that you're building the wrong product. Remember, the better understanding you have of your target market and your ICP and your value prop, the better product you're going to build. This is counterintuitive, but it's so true. Number four, not building pipeline, a mailing list, or an audience of your ICP and your target market early enough. Go-to-market is delayed gratification work. So if you're like, oh, we're just going to wait to build this feature and then we'll turn on go-to-market, it doesn't work that way. When you turn on go-to-market, a bunch of stuff happens, it has to compound, then you start seeing results. The sooner you start, the better off you are. If you're waiting for some final feature to come together or some final release of that perfect product, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because that delay is going to make it where you might be building the wrong thing, and then you get there and then you start to do the go-to-market work, and then you got to wait even longer to actually get the results because you didn't start early enough. It kind of goes with that saying, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. If you didn't do it yesterday, then start today. I think it's a Japanese proverb, but I really believe it. Number five, you don't have a written out go-to-market strategy. A written out go-to-market strategy has a clearly defined, written out ideal customer profile. It has a manifesto, which includes your one-sentence value proposition, but also your strategic narrative, and also a Broadway show, which is a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that you start early as you're building the product or as the product is getting to that next stage. So you're building pipeline and driving engagement and really understanding the market so that people are ready to buy and they trust you when it's ready. And if it's already ready, then even better, you need to be building pipeline with a Broadway show. Number six, not hiring stage appropriate people. You have to be first founder led. Do not outsource it in day zero to a fractional CMO. They all suck. Otherwise they would have real CMO jobs, because we can't hire enough great CMOs or VPs of marketing. So you got to own it. You got to be the founder led go-to-market person. And then you want to hire leverage. You want to get the AEs, SDRs, and the demand gen people. And then you want to hire the VPs that are great, and you're going to recruit great talent, because they're going to look at it like, oh, you already have sort of the machine built. I can scale it. Boom, plug it in, and boom, you're going to be super successful. Not firing low performers. Once you're hiring, you also want to make sure you have a process for firing. The best way to do that is thinking about, what is our evaluation process? Can we have a KPI per person and per department so we know who's performing and who's not? Or even start so we can kind of double click on it and understand, do we need to fire this person? Is there some deeper issue? Is there some management issue? So these two go hand in hand. Not firing low performers and not having a KPI per person will make sure that you actually don't even know what's happening with all the people you're hiring, and you'll kind of reduce the output of the organization. Number nine, not having a renewals process from day one. This is super important. As soon as someone becomes a customer, map out the next 12 months, all the things that are going to happen every month to make sure that customer is successful, so that by the time the renewal comes up, it's a foregone conclusion that either they're going to churn or they're going to buy, because you already know what's happening. And sometimes churn does happen, but more times, if you do this process, they're going to buy more often, they're going to buy more. And so it's super important to have that. Number 10, not having a consistent management cadence to revamp your go-to-market strategy. If number 1 through 4 are really like you don't have a go-to-market strategy, number 10 is you don't iterate on it, because markets change, the world changes, product dynamics change, competitive dynamics change. You need to meet every quarter, look at the same set of metrics, and run a proper strategy offsite to revamp your go-to-market strategy so you're getting better and better and better. These are the 10 big mistakes that Baby TK made, that I see founders make consistently today, that stops them from being successful in growing their SaaS business. But now you know what those mistakes are and what to do to actually avoid these mistakes, reduce your execution risk, and accelerate your path to that next stage of growth. If you're in this stage where you have a SaaS business, you have some revenues, and you're looking to accelerate your path to the next stage of growth, what you may not know is, how do I build out my go-to-market strategy? How do I establish a renewals process? How do I actually iterate on my go-to-market strategy every quarter? How do I actually make sure that I have a proper one-sentence value prop? How do I know that my ICP is any good? This is exactly why I created my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. It's an incredible program. Inside of this program, we work together, you and I, to actually build out your ideal customer profile. Then, based on everything we've learned, we build out your manifesto, which includes your strategic narrative, your one-sentence value proposition, and how you really communicate the transformation you're bringing into the market. Once you have those two pieces, you have your go-to-market strategy. Then I teach you how to run a Broadway show, which is a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that you can run to build pipeline, to build awareness in the market, to engage with potential buyers. Regardless of whether the product's ready or you're on version 4, you need this consistent Broadway show to build pipeline, develop a deeper understanding of the market, and continue to generate revenues and drive growth. It's an incredible program. So many success stories have been shared on this channel on how founders have gone through it and gotten growth. So if you're in this stage and you'd like to work together, just go to tkcater.com/GTM. tkcater.com/GTM. And on that page, you'll get all the details about how the program works. You just fill a little form, we'll get on a call. On the call, we'll make sure that we're a right fit. And as soon as you're a right fit, you and I start working together and we're off to the races to make sure you're set up for success with a scalable go-to-market strategy so you can drive growth. Lastly, if you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. We put a lot of love into these videos. Also, I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics on how to grow your SaaS business. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon if you haven't already, but you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. If you have a fellow founder, if you have a fellow team member, a co-founder, if you're part of a Slack group or WhatsApp group with other SaaS founders, please share this video with them. We want to help as many SaaS founders as possible avoid these mistakes and build incredible SaaS businesses. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode or inside of the SaaS go-to-market coaching program. Okay, are you ready for the last one? Are you going to miss me after this?